Hello, welcome back to 31 Days of Samhain. And today's project is going to be to make chicken bone broth. Bone broth is a wonderful, nutritiously dense, standard, basic thing to have on hand in your kitchen. And it's really easy to make. Now, today I am going to use my Instant Pot to make it. So it's really hands off. Once you get everything chopped and in there and the water in there, you set it, you forget it, you let it do its thing, and it's done. You can also use a stock pot on your stove or your slow cooker, your crock pot, if you will. And I've done it all three ways, and all three ways work wonderfully. I just like to be able to not be stuck to my kitchen the whole time that it's cooking. And I feel like if I have it on the cooktop, especially, now I have an electric cooktop, so it's a little less scary than a gas stove that I would not want to leave the house or leave it cooking. But it really, when you're doing it that way, needs to cook for a very long time to get all the nutrients out of the bones and the skin and the things left in the meat and all the goodies. So today I am going to use my Instant Pot, and I have never had a problem with any differences. Now, I'm not using my crock pot today because I no longer have a really large crock pot. So let me tell you a little bit about bone broth in general. And a lot of my bone broth information comes from this book. And this is Louise Hay and Heather Dane's The Bone Broth Secret. Lots of really good background of why you want to cook with bone broth, consume bone broth regularly, and there's some recipes in here. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of the recipes in the back I have not really tried. They're a little bit beyond where I'm at culinary-wise, but there is a lot of really good specific information about the benefits of bone broth, how to consume bone broth, and just a lot of really good stuff in here. So from this book, I'm going to tell you that bone broth, I want to put my book on a wet countertop. Bone broth dates back to at least 1000 AD, probably before that. I mean, if you think about our ancestors who hunter-gatherers once they hunted something, they would not want to let any of it go to waste. So throwing all the bones and maybe any bits of vegetable matter that they have gathered into something to cook it over a fire to make hot, nourishing broth. And in 1765, the very first restaurant was opened in Paris to serve the workers of Paris during the Industrial Revolution. It was opened by A. Boulanger, or Bollinger, if you have anglicized the name or Americanized the name. But A. Boulanger opened this restaurant, and I got to get the quote correct, had a sign in the restaurant that said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will restore you." And his restaurant served predominantly soups made with bone broths or stocks or that type of thing. Lots of good, nourishing whole foods. So let me tell you 4 reasons for consuming bone broth. And these reasons come, again, from Louise Hay and Heather Dane from the book Bone Broth Secrets. And the first one is the bioavailability of collagen. Collagen is all the rage, especially in the anti-aging and beauty world. You'll hear people talking about collagen supplements. I do have a powdered collagen supplement that I mix with my tea in the morning or my smoothies or maybe my soup when I'm making soup when I don't have homemade bone broth to get it from. And collagen is good for your skin, the connective tissues, especially as you're aging like I am and you start to get the saggy skin and the crepey skin. It's good for that. It's good for your hair growth. It's good for your nail growth. And just lots of good things come from collagen. And this is a great bioavailable source of collagen for you. And then also, speaking of bioavailability, the nutrients in bone broth, the amino acids, the vitamins, the minerals, the essential fatty acids, all much more bioavailable in something like this than a supplement that has been made in a factory. So then the third reason, less waste. You're using every last little bit of your food before it goes into your compost pile or it goes into your trash or wherever, however you get rid of the food waste. So you have some carrots and celery, onions that are maybe getting a little, or leftover vegetables at the end of a meal, put them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. You can make vegetable broth or you can add them to your bone broth. Chicken bones, that's what we're going to be using today, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. Then the fourth reason is that bone broth is a wonderful flavor enhancer for a lot of different dishes. Put a little bit in your mashed potatoes, put a little bit in any soup that you make. Don't drink it straight. Cook your rice or your beans or your quinoa, any of your grains, cook it with some bone broth. Adds extra healing and nutrition as well as flavor. So those are your four main reasons. So let's get to making your bone broth. And the first thing, obviously, that you're going to need to make bone broth are bones. Today I am making chicken bone broth. So I have chicken bones. And I have this bowl here to put them in, but I think I'm just going to put them right into the Instant Pot. So where do I get my bones? Well, you have lots of options. If you eat a lot of bone-in chicken, if you make wings, if you make, whole chicken, stewed chicken, any kind, if you cook a lot of chicken and you have chicken bones, when you're done with the meal and you've pulled all the meat off the bones, put those bones in a Ziploc freezer bag or some kind of freezer container, throw them in your freezer until you have enough to make broth. You can also, anytime you have leftover chicken bones. Sometimes, they might be my chicken bones from, I do live in Alabama, just good old fried chicken, Southern fried chicken. Now the one part that's really important, I think, if you can get them from a butcher or you can get them from a farmer who raises their own chickens, that is the best all the way around. And this might freak people out. So here's your warning for a few seconds to turn away if you're a little, bleh. Oh, can I get one out of here that's frozen? Yeah. Well, they're frozen. That's the other benefit of using the Instant Pot. These they're labeled chicken paws. They're chicken feet. Now these are already cleaned and I froze them. And the reason for using chicken feet, I know it sounds really nasty, but there is so much extra collagen in there than there is in the rest of the bones. So even if you don't, I have a 2-pound package here. I'm going to just take about half of it. Yeah, I'm going to take about half of it, which is about 8 to 10 chicken feet, and put them in there. The rest they're still frozen. I'm going to just rebag them, put them back in my freezer for my next batch another day. Then I just have bags of random chicken scraps, like I said, from different chicken meals. And the thing, you might make teriyaki chicken one time. You might make barbecue chicken the next time. You might end up with some interesting flavors in your chicken broth, each time a little bit different. So just embrace it. So that's really full. I might have to take, where's my max line on this? No, I'm all right. I think I'm all right. Then just add whatever you have. I'm just going to chop up carrots and celery and put those in here. I didn't peel the carrots. I just washed them really well because I'm not going to eat the actual carrots. I have a garlic clove. I wish I had more garlic, but my garlic was had gone over. Not gone, it wasn't dried up. Wasn't very good. Again, same with onions. Just big chunks of onion. Of course, I saved the onion skins to use as fabric dye. And then I have a nice little chunk of ginger because the intention that I'm setting for this healing broth is that it is going to warm and heal and just be a really good tonic, if you will, for the winter months. So adding a little ginger to it, add just a little heat. Ginger is a wonderful anti-inflammatory little heat. Throw that in there. What I don't have is a bay leaf or two. So be right back. I'm going to get a bay leaf to put in here as well. Okay, a couple bay leaves. Tuck those in there. Wherever. The pressure canner, it's not gonna, or not canner, pressure cooker, it's not gonna matter. Oh, and then a little bit, probably more than I need, but again, I wanna make this a little spicier, a little hotter. So peppercorns, whole peppercorns. You could put those in the, I would have, but now that's too late. Put them in the mortar and pestle and crack them up a little bit, or use cracked pepper, but they'll be fine. One last thing, I need to get a measuring cup. I am going to take some apple cider vinegar and put about a 1/4 cup in there. Oop, got a little mother in there, but that's okay. Cider's been around for a minute. Ooh, pour that in there. And then the final thing, obviously, and I need to get another, is to add water. I'm going to add probably about 8 cups. I'm a little worried this might be a little full. You really want it, you want the water to come up to the top, but obviously you do not want it over the line if you're using a Instant Pot, pressure cooker type thing. You could do this on a stovetop pressure cooker as well if you have one of those. I do have one of those, but I don't think I want to use that today. That's for another project, another day. When you have the simplicity of an Instant Pot, why not take advantage of it, right? So here we go. Now, I told you about the Louise Hay book, another book that I'm kind of using as a general recipe and guideline. I'm not following their recipe to the exact, but I'm pretty darn close. Is this book? It's by Laurel Randolph, and I will see if these are all available on Amazon. I think they are, and put links in the description for you. I no longer have an Amazon affiliate link. Maybe I should look into that. I don't know, but for your ease, I'll try to get a link in there for you. And this is the Instant Pot Electric Pressure Cooker Cookbook. I've had this since I got my Instant Pot, however many years ago everybody got Instant Pots. I don't know. So easy recipes for fast and healthy meals. I do use this book, refer to this book almost every time I get the Instant Pot out. And it's by Laurel Randolph. So in here are recipes for chicken stock, vegetable stock, beef bone broth, and chicken bone broth, spicy chicken bone broth. So I'm kind of using general guidelines from here for that. So that's where I've gotten a lot of my information.
But the beauty of making your own stocks and broths and things like that is you just, whatever you got in the freezer, throw it in there. Got a little, do have some leftover Brussels sprouts, but sometimes things like Brussels sprouts can go a little bitter in the Instant Pot, so I'm not going to put those in there. Same with mushrooms. I like to put medicinal mushrooms in a lot of things, but not necessarily in the Instant Pot. Sometimes they can almost leave a metallic taste. So I'm leaving those out of this. I put those in other things instead for their medicinal value. So let's get this in the Instant Pot. Set the lid, lock it, make sure the pressure valve is closed, and manual, I think it's an hour and a half, and let me double check. Yes, manual high pressure for an hour and a half. Oops, you know what else is helpful? If you plug it in. There we go. So manual, 91 minutes, doesn't matter. Let it do its thing, and we'll come back when that's done. You're going to let it do that. You're going to let it just do its complete, it's on, it's working, do its complete cycle and let it release the pressure naturally. So you don't need to come back to that until you hear it, the little valve go boop down. Doesn't quite make that sound, but you know what I mean? If you have an Instant Pot, you know what I mean? Now, if you were doing this in your crock pot, your slow cooker, or on your cooktop, you would do everything we just did, and then you would put it in your pot, whatever pot you're using, your stock pot or on the stove or your crock pot vessel, and put the lid on it, and then put it in your crock pot. I would just put it on low and leave it. You could have it cook overnight if you and just kind of keep an eye on it. And maybe, you can open it up, check on it, stir it a little bit if you need to. But I usually let it go at least 12 hours, if not a little bit more, when I do it in the crock pot. So that's why if you know you're going to be home and you'll be able to keep an eye on it and you feel safe doing that, then that's one way of doing it. Do the same thing on your cooktop. This is why I wouldn't use a gas stove for this, because I wouldn't want to leave that open flame going, or what if something blew the flame out, whatever. But bring it up to a boil on your cooktop and then lower it down to a simmer and let it simmer all day. I would probably not leave the house or have it going overnight. It's just me. You don't want it to boil over. You don't want it to boil dry. I want to be able to come through the kitchen every now and then and just check and make sure it's not boiling anymore. It's not scorching, etc. That's just me. So, you get up, maybe get everything in the pot the night before, stick it in the fridge. First thing you get up in the morning, put it on the stove, bring it to a boil, let it simmer all day before you go to bed at night, strain it off, you've got bone broth. This is why modern technology exists, in my opinion. But you do you. You could go real old school and get a copper kettle or a cast iron cauldron over an open flame and sit there and be your witchy best and bubble, bubble, toil, and trouble all day long, if you want to. All right, I will come back. Well, I'll come back in about 2 hours at least. The washing machine should be done, and that should be done doing its thing. Probably it's going to be at least 2 hours. It takes a while for it to get up to heat and up to pressure, especially with frozen meat in there, frozen bones. It'll take a lot longer for that to get to temperature. So it'll be 2 or 3 hours till I can come back and strain that and show you what we got. Okay? So I apologize. My microphone died, and so here I am. So the Instant Pot is finished. Here's what it looks like when it comes out. And the lesson you need to do at this point is just strain it into jars or however you're going to store it. And if you're ready to can and you've got your hot prepared jars for canning, you can just put it right into there. But I did not this day because it was getting late and I didn't have time to run the canner. So I just put it into these jars and put it into the fridge. So just ladle, strain. You can see how beautiful golden color it is. And then just get the last of the goodness out of there. Now you can put those solids back into the Instant Pot, add water, and run them through another cycle. And you will have a few more quarts of finished broth. It won't be quite as golden, won't be quite as thick and collagen rich as the first go around, but it's still really good for cooking. But here are our liquid gold.
Okay, I'm back. We're going to finish this chicken stock. And these 2 quarts have been sitting in my fridge overnight, cooling off. But I decided that I want to can them, and I want to can them into pint jars. And you can't can from cold. You've got to can from hot pack method. And math, 2 quarts makes 4 pints. I decided I wanted mine in pint jars. I have my bath canner, my pressure canner over here on the stove getting hot, and I'm going to go ahead and just put my jars in there to get them heated up as well. And I'm just going to sit that on there just to hold the heat in. Then what I need to do is heat up the stock. Now, the stock has cooled overnight, so there's a nice little cap of fat cap on there. When you go to can it, you have 2 choices, basically. You can heat it all up with the fat in there and can it with the fat. Or if you want to be like, you don't want that fat on there, you could pull that fat off of there. There really wasn't that much, surprisingly. But, you got to see this. So this is a sign of a really, really good chicken stock, is if it gels. It's got all that collagen in it. So you might be thinking that's, really gross, but that's a sign that it's good. Now, it won't necessarily, in my experience, when it's like cooked again, basically cooked again when it gets canned, it doesn't always keep that gel, but all the good stuff's still in there. You're not going to destroy that while you're canning it. So I'm going to glug these puppies in here. Oh my God, that is good stuff. Now I have a 1/2 quart in the fridge because this made about 2.5 quarts in an Instant Pot that I'm going to just save to use this week and cook with it this week, drink it straight this week, all kinds of things with it. Okay, here's one. This one, it doesn't have very much fat at all on the second one, so I'm just going to put the whole thing in there. Bloop. I wish I had had this when I got back from my trip this summer, last month, 2 months, whenever that was. Time is irrelevant. When I was sick, because this would have, there is a reason that homemade chicken soup is called Jewish penicillin, because when you're sick, there's just nothing better and all the goodness in there. So, well, I know this is exactly 2 quarts. Normally, if I wanted to try to get if I thought there was, if I wasn't sure, I would rinse these out with water and add to it. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to mess up my, you know what? I'm just going to add that fat back in there. There wasn't that much. Sometimes I have made chicken stock. It happens more when I make beef stock, actually, to be honest. Had like a nice thick fat cap on there and would take that off. But that wasn't very fatty. So, all right, clean. Okay. Let's set this on the burner, the back burner, and get this heated up. I want to get this up to a good hot simmer, almost to a boil, before I pack it into the jars.
And I want the jars hot too. You want hot jars, hot whatever you're putting in them. And you don't need to heat your lids. I used to heat my lids. That's the way I was taught back in the day. I used to keep them in a little hot saucepan, but they have been washed and sanitized. So I'm just going to keep them sitting here and put them on because it's so much easier to handle them when they're not been in boiling water. So I'm going to set this on the stove, and we will come back when this all gets hot, ladle it into the jars, and process it. And this is a real simple process. Don't be afraid of pressure canning. Just follow all the rules that are in your pressure canner instructions. Lots of good information from lots of different resources. Make sure your seal is good. Make sure, just follow all the precautions. I'm not going to go through them here. It's not my job to do that, but just make sure that everything in your canner is in good condition and is safe, and don't be scared of it. It's not going to I've never known. I've literally known a lot of people doing a lot of canning over the years, and I've never known anybody had theirs explode. So there is that. So the stock, broth, bone broth, there are differences. I know there are differences. But for today's little lesson here, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. In general, stock is just bones, I believe. Somebody's going to come hopefully somebody will come in the comments and correct me. Maybe I should do one of those on purpose wrong videos where like everything is kind of a little bit off just to get people to interact and tell me how wrong I was. But that's not what my channel's about. But anyhow, I'm going to call it broth, I guess, right now. Has been heating on the stovetop, and I have my little thermometer here. It's just starting to move in there a little bit. I want it about 180 degrees. It's not quite boiling. It doesn't need to boil. Oh yeah, it's 100. It got that. It wasn't even done heating at that point. So I'm going to turn that one off, and then my water here in my canner. I gotta get some hot pads out. Is starting. I turned it up a little higher, and it's definitely got a movement happening in there. So, and my jars are in here, heating up, sanitizing, getting hot. Because if you put the hot broth in a cold jar, that's more dangerous than the pressure canner itself, or vice versa. But that's usually how it happens. So I'm going to move, I'm just going to turn this a little bit this way. So some of the tools that I have, of course, I have my bands and my lids. Lids have been washed. I have my jar lifter for getting the hot jars in and out of the canner. This little doodad I had to search for, but I finally found it. You can use this end to move any bubbles, but I'm probably just going to use this little spatula. But this little stair step edge, your canning recipes will say leave 1 inch of headspace, leave a 1/4 inch of headspace. So each of these is a 1/4 inch. I'll show you as I use it, but we're going to want a 1 inch headspace for this, for what we're doing here. So let's bring this pot of hot stock, hot broth over here and grab my first jar. Oh, where's my funnel? Here's my funnel. I use this funnel almost daily for random things. Jar funnels, so handy. Used to have a nice metal one. Don't have one anymore. So, yeah. And I'm just going to ladle my hot stuff into the jar. And then when I think I have it went close to 1 inch, I'm going to take that off. See, the 1 inch is that last one. Okay, I can add just a little bit more. Just right. Okay. And then I'm going to take, I'm just going to take a paper towel and make sure that my rim here is clean, that there's no drips, especially if when you're doing things that might have grease. So sometimes I will have a little bowl of white vinegar here and dip my cloth into the white vinegar to clean any possibility of any oils or grease, but I don't think I have any today. So I'm going to put that on there and tighten that down. Something to wrap this in, just so I don't burn my hand. And you don't need to super tighten it, just tighten it. That sound will be important later. You don't need it to worry about it right now. And then take that jar, stick it back in the pot, and grab the next one, bring it over, and repeat. I didn't mention before I put the jars into the canner to heat up and sanitize, and when I washed them, I made sure to check that there weren't any nicks, any chips or anything, or any, heaven forbid, any cracks or anything in the jars. These are brand new jars. I just bought them this morning, but you never know. Transportation, the way they're handled in the store, they could still end up with a little bit of a nick. But also that running of the paper towel or what have you around the top edge gives you just a little extra check. You don't feel any nicks. Now, this was supposed to be, I don't think it reduced. I didn't let it cook. Oh, sugar. So now I do have more chicken stock in the refrigerator, but it's not heated up. So what I'm going to do is, normally when I'm canning, I have a kettle of hot water going anyway, but I don't. So I'm going to let that kettle of hot water heat up. And my 2 quarts must have reduced down just a little bit. And I'm just going to top that off with hot water. It'll just dilute it a little bit. Set that there, wait for that to get hot, top this off with hot water, and then we'll get that ready to go. Okay, here's my last one. So here's the canner. I've got the jars in here. It can obviously hold a lot more than what's in here, but this is what I have for today. Water is heating. It's set between medium and high. It's electric cooktop. And now I'm going to take my lid. Okay, I'm going to match. There's a V right here. Can you see that? I don't know if you can. You look, but it's right in there. It's etched in there. So I had a hard time finding it. So match those 2 V's up, and then you're going to lock it. Okay. And just like with your Instant Pot, steam is going to slowly build up in there. And that's why I have it, at high. But I'm not going to put the little pressure regulator on yet. What I want to see a steady stream of steam coming out of this little valve for about 10 minutes before I put the little topper on. Then I'll put the topper on, and this pressure valve, is going to build the pressure. As the pressure builds up, and there's a valve over here that'll lock. It'll pop up and lock. And then once the pressure builds, and for this I want around 10 to 11 pounds per square inch PSI. Yeah.
And I don't want it to go way over here, because if it goes way over here, that's when you get explosions. You got to keep an eye on it. And so when I see it nearing the 10, I'm probably going to turn my temperature under it down just a little bit. You don't want any major heat fluctuations, but a couple notches on the burner here. And then let it, as soon as I see that it's at the pressure I want it, I'm going to start counting. For this, it is 20 minutes for pint jars. That's how long it needs to be at pressure. If for some reason it goes below the 10 pounds per square inch pressure during that processing time, got to slowly heat it back up again carefully and start my 20 minutes over again. It's got to have 20 consistent minutes at 10 PSI for safe canning. Okay, that's as picky as I'm going to get about pretty much anything. Okie doke, here we go. We've got 10 good minutes of plenty of steam coming through there. Now we're going to put this on. Ooh. And then I'm going to keep an eye on my gauge, and it should go up to 10. I don't know how long it takes. And, oh, yep, my lock back there has popped up. You can see that. Yeah, you can see it right there. That's the pressure lock. All right. As soon as I keep checking this, as soon as I see it getting near 10, I'll lower the temperature just a skosh. And as soon as I see it consistently at 10, I'll start timing it for 20 minutes. So here is our finished stock. And you can see it is very liquidy now rather than gelled like it was when it was cold. But that's okay because, like I said, the nutrients are all still in there, and this is shelf stable, and it will be good for 6 months to a year at least. It'll get used up long before that, so that's not even a question. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a little bit about something about bone broth, chicken, making your own chicken broth. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And this month, you have 31 opportunities to like, subscribe, and share. So I hope you come back tomorrow, and I don't know if it's going to see what's cooking, see what's crafting, see what I'm DIYing. I'm not sure what tomorrow's video will be, but I hope you come back and find out for yourself. So thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. Peace out.